3 weeks later. Many months later.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
2 hours later. 3 days later. 6.5 hours later. Day 2. Day 3. Day 4. A few moments later. 1 eternity later. 3:28 a.m. Tomorrow. Tomorrow for sure. Eventually. 12 o'clock midnight. 1 hour later. 3 hours later. While Mickey and the gang pull themselves together, let's see how Sam and his friends are up to. Meanwhile, the next day. Several bad puns later. 6 to 8 weeks later. 1 minute 37 seconds later. The next morning. Meanwhile at Disneytopia. 346 minutes later.
Many unbearable hours later.
Will you please stop imitating me? It is starting to get very annoying. Much later. 7:59 a.m. 24 hours later. 5 minutes later. 72 hours later. Montage. Flashback. End of flashback. 4 to 6 days later. 4 to 6 more days later. Many mouse-tools later. 1 nap later. 1 very long digestive tract later. 6 months later. 10 minutes later. Later that night. 1 weekend of pampering later. Several days later. Several years later. You get the idea. 8 semesters later. 5,000 celebrities later. A few minutes later. 1 operation later. Meanwhile at Aunt Jemima's kitchen. Not much later. 1 second later.